West Africa collaboration event, not worlds apart, occupational safety and health in 2 different continents. First off, many thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this session as much as we've enjoyed putting it together. Secondly, this is being recorded as well, so if you're not comfortable with that, please turn your camera off and just listen in the background. I'd like to thank the IOSH Vice Presidential team, Vice Presidents Rick Bate and Dr. David Arku for giving up the time to join myself, Temitope Mabude, Kemi Amaruse, Julius Akpong on the panel, and also to facilitators Carl West and Gabrielle Balatito. I'm going to hand over to the Vice Presidential team shortly to do a bit of a presentation around the recently released ARUP report, which is a fantastic report. If you've not read it, please do. Really interesting. And then we'll go into a panel discussion followed by question and answers at the end. Feel free to pop any questions you've got into the chat, and we'll take as many as we can towards the end, depending on time, and we'll answer what we can. And we're doing this meeting to pull it in line with the Activate 2028 strategy, hence us doing it from 2 different continents. Hope you all enjoy it. Now, without further ado, I shall hand over to the presidential team of Mr. Richard Bate and Dr. David Arku, who will make a start on the presentation.
Good afternoon, good evening. It's great to be here with you. I'm going to start for a few slides and I'll bring David in. We're not going to introduce ourselves just at this point. We're going to wait until we introduce all of the panel. So from David and myself, it's a great pleasure to be here with you. We're going to be with you for about 15 minutes, and I hope that you start to formulate lots of great questions for us for the panel session later. Matt's done a brilliant introduction, so let's get straight into what the vision is. Really importantly, from my perspective, and obviously from David's perspective, this whole thing around Vision 2028, it's a live strategy. It keeps developing, and as Matt already mentioned, the ARUP report is so important to everything that we're doing. So welcome to this global event. We're going to explore challenges and changes that are reshaping the world of work, and there are many. We're going to share a short presentation, and we're going to ask you some what ifs, give you some scenarios that could affect workers' health, safety and well-being. Then in our panel session, we'll discuss this in greater detail, inviting responses and asking whether you're prepared enough. Have you thought this through? So please start thinking of your questions. Later, we're going to open up to you, give you that chance to ask questions, look for responses, and again, share some experiences and ideas. It's really important that we hear from you. And as you know, IOSH's work pursues its long-standing vision of a safe and healthy world of work for everyone, wherever they live in the world. And importantly, in June 2022, the ILO recognised a safe and healthy working environment as a fundamental principle and right at work. And of course, IOSH endorses this and is advocating for ways to make it a reality. So let's look at the challenges and opportunities for change in our world of work. We know we're in an era of incredible, enormous change. It's everywhere. It's constant. And we're not going to be able to stop it. Changes to the world of work will have profound effects on working lives and livelihoods worldwide. Some of these could be positive. Others likely could present risks and hazards that we haven't already, we haven't had time to consider yet. How we understand, navigate and adapt will define our success or failure. And these fundamental shifts are challenging traditional definitions of work. Also, we have to get our heads around the rapid changes to work that we're facing. Businesses are responding with new strategies and policies, but are they effective? And to what extent is safety and health professional being redefined as well? What should we do to respond? I've done something to respond, and maybe that will come out in the Q&A session later. So from IOSH's perspective, buckle up, be open to change, be curious, be critical, and be ready to learn and bring in diverse talent to sustain our profession as we move forward. Work matters. It's a massive part of our lives, but for how many people is work actually really safe, healthy and fulfilling? Even the definition of workplace has changed. Post-COVID, I mean, we don't necessarily work in offices anymore. That has changed significantly, and it's not restricted to a single building or a location. That is a seismic shift. The task workers do and how and where they carry them out, it's transforming constantly and very, very quickly. Generative AI exploded, when was that? 2020, 2023. And we're yet to grasp the implications of this. In some places, we face challenges and opportunities of an aging workforce, people like me. We also see 4 generations working in the same workplace at the same time. Elsewhere, importantly, very young population brings with it its own, energy and ideas and also anxieties. The roles, industries and working patterns are already changing in the face of our climate emergency. I hope we get some questions on the climate emergency in the panel session. I think also there's perhaps an erosion of trust in institutions, governments and traditional professions with individuals and business having increased influence. That's also a shift post-COVID. So as part of IOSH's response to better understanding the challenges and opportunities ahead, we've commissioned the global consultancy Arab to reflect on these horizons. I would normally hold up the Arab report at this point, but if I do that, it will mess up my camera, so I'm not going to. At this point, I'm going to hand over to my esteemed colleague, Dr. David Arku.
Thank you, Richard, and hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. So, what is this Arab report that we've been talking about? IOSH, as part of its strategy of Activate 2028, wants to be a global leader in OSH. To be a global leader, we need to know what is happening. And so research was done. And this research looked at what is the future of the world of work? What are the things that are currently changing and the things that are expected to change? This is because we need to be able to get ahead of the curve. We need to be able to predict and anticipate so that we can put in the right control measures. Next slide, please. So, our first question: what if psychological injuries and mental health are regulated in the same way as physical injuries? We tend to focus on physical injuries. Somebody breaks their hand or has a cut. We're running helter-skelter, we're trying to deal with it. But if somebody has a psychological issue, a mental health challenge, we tend to overlook it. COVID-19 brought mental health to the forefront of our minds. We all became increasingly aware that mental health is important. Statistics show that 1 in 8 people have a mental health problem worldwide. And I know all of us here do struggle with the mental health challenges from time to time. So, do we need to put more focus on this? Next slide. Work has a huge role to play on mental health. Just imagine this. In our adult lives, we spend 1/3 of that life at work. The other 1/3 is spent sleeping and in between everything else. 1/3. Therefore, if there are factors that damage your mental health at work, it's going to damage your overall mental health. But we are looking not at the challenge, but the opportunity. How do us as health and safety professionals improve the mental health of our workers? So this includes things like assessing work-related stress. And a fantastic way to do this is the HSC's management standards, which looks at the 6 factors that affect mental health at work and how to manage them. How do we ensure that when somebody has a mental health issue, they can come back to work as soon as it's reasonably practicable? That we can put in reasonable adjustments, that we can help them reintegrate into the workplace. Because this is of benefit to the individual. They tend to recover faster and also benefit to the organization. Next slide, please. So, second question: what if gig work overtakes secure employment as the most common source of primary income? Gig work is basically short-term contract and freelance work. I am an example of somebody who does gig work. I do freelance work here and there and there. Now, fortunately for me, I have a stable income beside my gig work. But for some people, gig work is their primary source of income. And it's been found out that it's greatly affecting their mental health because your working hours are unpredictable. You can't really plan. And it's difficult to integrate this with family life, with your social life. Income, unpredictable. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. We need to accept that this is the way in which the world of work is changing. How do we get ahead of it? How do we help people who have gig work as their primary source of income? Next slide, please. So in the US, 10% of workers are relying on gig work, and this is going to grow across the world. So for example, as health and safety professionals, do we have a way to do risk assessment for somebody who is doing gig work? Are we going to be able to give them safety training, even though they're not going to traditionally come into an office where we can put them in a conference room? What can we do to ensure that no matter the sector you're working in, you can be kept healthy and safe? Next slide, please. So I'm going to hand back to Richard for the next.
Thank you, David. So staying with the what ifs. What if extreme global warming leads to significant increases in workers' occupational risks and vulnerability? So what if extreme global warming leads to these increased risks to workers? What are we doing about it? It's the greatest challenge facing our planet, and it affects are increasing faster than some forecasters predicted. We've just lived through the 10 hottest years on record, and sadly 2024 is likely to be number 11. So that pattern increases the number of people at risk of suffering heat stress at work, particularly in countries where humidity is high. Unbelievably, China now loses 722 billion working hours annually due to the effects of humid heat on workers. India loses 259 billion. These numbers are stratospheric, almost hard to compute. So increased average temperatures are not just a threat on their own. They amplify others, putting people with underlying medical conditions at higher risk, and combined with existing factors such as air pollution, which is already one of the leading causes of death, particularly in emerging economies. Now, I struggle with this next point because it almost makes me feel angry. But countries most at risk of climate change effects are often those that are least able to respond to them. Now, we as professionals should be doing something to look at this and support countries that need, our skills and experience. Climate change and how do we adapt to it? I think this is also, we're seeing this now. We see wildfires in the US, fires in Australia, but recently this week, incredible levels of rainfall fall across north and middle of Europe. The world has changed. It's however you process this change in our temperature, this potential global catastrophe, it's not going to change. The weather patterns are threatening employee safety, even potentially the survival of business. So how prepared are workers and their employers to face these events? How might the standard working day change to keep workers safe? I was working in Dubai earlier this year, and we shifted to a nighttime working pattern, which is really rare in my side of the industry. And rising global temperatures are extending to the geographical spread of some serious diseases, such as habitats opening up to creatures that carry them. A rise in diseases such as dengue fever and Zika virus is predicted not only in places where they've occurred previously, but also in northern countries. Now, these climate-related issues, they're not going to go away. They will have to be managed. Protecting employees and the organizations they work for from these threats will be central to OSH professionals' roles in the years to come. We will all have a part to play. So are you, as OSH professionals, already dealing with issues related to this in your workplace? So this is a point now where I'm kind of asking you guys who are on this call a question. How are you reacting? Put some questions into the chat. Let's hear your thoughts on this. back to a what if. Using new technologies to improve worker protection actually creates other health and safety and well-being risks. Now, we've already mentioned the IOSH and the Arab report, but the report asks, what if using these new technologies actually puts our workforce at risk? Now, some people describe our present age as a fourth industrial revolution, characterized by the integration of intelligent digital technologies into manufacturing and industrial processes. Just as we did for manufacturing and production 200 years ago, we can now automate many more dexterous physical tasks once reserved for humans. Anything from bricklaying to table service in a restaurant. And this automation has the potential to eliminate millions of jobs. We understand this, but it should also free up time and resources for other productive work. Now, machines such as robots, drones, cobots can be substituted for people in some of the most hazardous environments, such as working at height and working in confined spaces. I think also assistive technologies such as exoskeletons, maybe they can help humans to carry out tasks previously, way beyond our ability. I think digitization of administrative and even some creative tasks, especially around generative artificial intelligence, could replace even more jobs. One estimate is that it could be up to 80% of tasks in certain jobs could be automatable. Technology and digitization, again, this throws up physical risks for humans left working alongside the machines. Whether it's from accidental contact or from trying to keep up with the accelerated pace of work set by the robot. Now, we've got to consider what model of regulation and enforcement will be required to harness the benefits of these developments, but also while protecting people, to ensure that our standards that we've been working with for many decades, that these standards are maintained. Now, safety and health professionals, we've got to be at the table. We have to be there to discuss digital and technological interventions so that we can advocate for safety in design and also for worker-centered approaches. As humans, we need to adapt. We need to learn, develop, and harness technological innovations wherever they can be used. And organizations, increasingly demand non-technical or behavior skills such as communication and engagement and people management, alongside, what was previously important, like technical competencies that defined the profession, in previous generations. Also, really importantly, critical thinking, data literacy, competency in scenario planning, and grasp of technological change are important for professionals to ensure a human-centered, ethical approach to developments. So in risky and really uncertain times, safety and health professionals possess key advantages. We're trained and experienced in recognizing and controlling risk. David, back to you, sir.
Thank you, Richard. So, at the end of this report, or in conclusion from this report, IOSH is calling to action businesses. So, for example, how would a business adapt its risk control measures to adjust to these risks that are coming in the present and in the future? To governments, to set up national frameworks that align to ILO Convention 155, and to us as professionals, how can we adapt and learn, upskill, so that as the world is changing, we can keep people healthy and safe? Next slide, please. So, what does this mean for us? For me and for every one of you on this call as health and safety professionals, what does all of this mean? This is why we're having the discussion today. I'll hand over the floor to Matt Hall.
Many thanks, David. Many thanks, Rick. Really interesting presentation to get us started. It's fascinating. I really find that really in-depth and really interesting. It's brilliant, the Arab report. And again, those on the call, if you've not read it or not had a chance to have a look at it yet, it's viewable on the IOSH website. Please do have a read. It's really in-depth and it's really great, and it tells us a lot about what we can learn and how we can improve going forward as safety professionals and as human beings as well. Okay, right. Again, thanks for that. We're now going to go round the panel and do some introductions. I'll start with myself. I'm Matt Hall, Chair of the IOSH East Midlands branch. I currently work as a lead auditor for Rolls-Royce, lead auditor for safety for Rolls-Royce. I've been an IOSH volunteer for around a year now. I moved into safety after witnessing a fatality at work whilst living abroad, and that was what made me decide I wanted to try and make a difference, and to try and do everything I could to make sure no one ever went through that again, or do what I could to prevent as many people reoccurrence. I'm UK based, from Derby, but currently working in a delightful Barrow-in-Furness. I'm a charter member of IOSH, branch chair and volunteer, as I've said. I've never worked abroad career-wise, but I have been a vast traveller, and I've lived abroad and visited 123 different countries. Hence why the Activate 2028 report and the ERIT report fascinate me so much, and how, as Rick touched on, I believe massive equality. We need to make massive improvements around the world on the things we've just discussed. Okay, I'll pass on now to the rest of the panel to introduce themselves, and after that we'll go into the Q&A with Carl. Thank you.
Okay, Matt, thank you. As Matt just said there, with real good, interesting debate, lots of discussion and thought-provoking ideas coming from this. As the time's going on, we've got an interesting panel. We're desperate to get into the talking of this webinar now, so we'll go through the other 5 in the panel. If you can just do a brief description on who you are, what is the main region you work in your OSH career, how many years you've been an IOSH member and a volunteer, and any work you have undertaken in other regions outside your current one. So we'll go to Kemi first.
Okay, hi, Carl. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Oluwakemi Aramasoye. I have worked as a safety practitioner with over 13 years experience in the maritime industry. So I started my IOSH career as a student in 2012, and today I'm a chartered member of IOSH, and I have volunteered for IOSH since 2017. So that's like 7 years. So I've been with IOSH, and
Okay, thank you, Kemi. So over to Temi Tope.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Carl. My name is Temitope Mundele. Then definitely, I'm the president chair of the IOSH West African branch. Presently, I'm based in the UK, and definitely I've been a volunteer with IOSH for 9 years. I started as a general secretary up to extend becoming the chair of the of the IOSH West African branch, and also definitely I've been an IOSH member. I joined IOSH IOSH as an athlete, which definitely now I'm a chartered fellow of IOSH, and I've been a member of IOSH for 11 years. Yes, for 11 years. So that is just a brief about myself. Thank you, Carl.
Okay, thank you. We have Julius.
Thank you, Carl, and good evening, everyone. My name is Julius Akbong. I've been practicing health and safety now for 18 years. I've been an IOSH member since 2010, but just recently became a volunteer this year. So I'm one of the very fresh volunteers, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, and finally, the two that undertaking the presentation tonight, Richard.
Hi, everyone. So, yeah, my name is Richard Bay. Everybody calls me Rick. I live in the UK, but over the past 27 years as an OSH professional, I've rarely worked in the UK. I work in the event space, and I've been blessed to be able to, I think, work in 84 countries. So yeah, member for 27 years, and then I've been volunteering for 18 years. So yeah, the volunteering thing for me is very, very important. So yeah, I think my work is kind of outside of the UK, and it's given me the opportunity to meet fantastic people like you as I've traveled around the world. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Richard. And finally, David.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. David Aku. I'm a medical doctor. I wear 2 hats in IOSH currently. So I am both IOSH Vice President and also the chair of IOSH Ghana. I've been a member of IOSH since 2018, joined initially as a certified member and then quickly jumped to chartered member. Currently, I'm a chartered fellow. Most of my work has been here within the West African region. Thank you.
Okay, let's get straight into the questions then. The team are itching to answer some of these. So the first one, so the report, what are the implications of change for us in both regions? So we'll start with Richard, please.
I thought you'd come to me first. I think first of all, let's understand what change is, and defining change is difficult. From my perspective, I feel it's often misunderstood what change actually looks like, and more importantly, how long it takes for change to be effected. But there are so many implications for us to consider. Now, the Arab report has covered a lot of them. And I was asked this question a few weeks ago. So I'm not going to touch anything on any areas that I think we might discuss from the Arab report. But for me, there's a couple of, or maybe more than a couple of critical areas. Are the changes that we're facing, are they evolutionary or are they revolutionary? That's a key question, which I hope we'll explore further this evening. I think also importantly, what are the expectations of young people entering the profession? My experience is that young professionals expect better salaries, more flexibility, and better terms and conditions. Are employers ready for that? I'm a big supporter of the green transition, but is it fair to all workers globally? Again, my experience is it's not. Our industry set up to meet the needs of multi-generational workers. You know, I mentioned it, or David mentioned it earlier, that you can have 4 generations of the same family in the same workplace. This is a big shift. It's probably a bit more of a UK view. What happens if deregulation leads to a reduction in IOSH standards? I did have a point around mental health issues, but I think that'll be teased out further in the conversation. I do have a couple more points. What happens if there's another global pandemic? Are we ready? Probably not. Final point from me, and this is my critically important one. If we look at, I'm going to talk about the UK in a moment, but if we look globally, there's going to be a significant shortfall of people entering the workforce over the next 10 years. Now, I'm going to be UK specific, but I'm sure that this relates globally. In the next 10 years in the UK, we need about 3.7 million people to enter the workforce. However, it's predicted that only 500,000 are going to enter from, from traditional means, if you like, from college, from university. We can make that up with some positive immigration, but we're going to have a 3 million person shortfall. Who's going to fill that skills gap? And I got an idea, I know who it's going to be. It's going to be older workers who are asked to stay on. That was a long answer, but I think it was a really important question.
Good, thank you, Richard. Over to Matt. What are your thoughts on this one?
Okay, thanks, Rick. Really interesting comments. I think the implications of change are massive. That said, I think we need to view change as an opportunity to evolve and improve, and certainly not something to be scared of. We need to change our mindsets, I think, myself included in a way. For instance, the amount of green jobs that can be created if we push towards a carbon neutral world. I think it was estimated about 25 million worldwide by the ILO. As Rick said, those aren't always fair on everyone, but I think on the whole, it'll be a big positive. Okay, it's a phenomenal figure. All that extra employment whilst trying to improve the planet. And again, I think we can certainly change into a positive in every single aspect of work and life. It's not something to be feared. It's something to be ridden with. It's something to be challenged, and it's something that we can really put into practice and improve the world, both safety-wise and I think the world in general. Okay, I think we've got a huge opportunity here, both as safety professionals and human beings, to improve the world and improve everything going forward. And it's up to every single one of us to make these changes and make sure they're positive, and we stand future generations in good stead. Will it be easy? Not at all, but I think we all need to be up for the challenge and play our part to try and improve and evolve the world and the world of safety as well as we go along.
Good, thanks, Matt. And over to Temitope.
Okay, yes, when it comes to, I Africa, when we're talking about this change, definitely Ricky actually made mention of something, migration. That is something that is also affecting us at this, at this part of the world. We have a lot of professionals migrating out of Africa every day, which I'm also inclusive. This is a trend that we actually have to deal with in Africa, because definitely, it's providing, it's giving a lot of competency gap. Okay, I'm not going to talk about the knowledge gap, skill gap, but competency gap. So that is something that is happening in Africa. And also, is our employers, are they even ready for remote working? Most of the employers in Africa, they are not open to remote working. They actually believe in having everybody at the workplace at same time. So that is also a trend that we also have to face in this part of the world. Employers, the majority of employers, I'm not saying all the employers, but majority of our employers are not open to that. They don't actually believe that you could actually work effectively from home, effectively. And now this now drives us to the issue of mental health. Let me give an example. In Lagos, we could actually be in traffic for hours. I could actually spend 4-5 hours in traffic every day. That could actually result into mental health issue. And definitely, we don't even have any legislation when it comes to handling of mental health. The majority of our legislation focus on physical health, which at the end of the day, all these, majority of all these legislations are even obsolete. So these are the issues that we are actually facing in this part of the region. That we are actually, so the change might actually be something that we have to deal with in a very critical way. Thank you.
Yeah, really thought-provoking, Temitope. Thank you. Okay, so how can the safety and health profession in both regions respond? Obviously, the report and change. How can we respond? We'll go over to David for this one.
All right, thank you for the question. So, as the previous speakers have rightly said, the change is here and we need to embrace it. So the first step is to embrace the change that has come. For example, fighting AI is like fighting Google when it came. There is no way you could fight people using Google. You couldn't insist that people go to a library to read research from books when Google is available. Same thing with the new changes that are coming in. We need to embrace them, and then we need to adapt. How then can we adapt? We can leverage technology. For example, if we need to do a risk assessment in a high-risk area, why not use a drone? Why not install CCTV cameras to look at that? If workers are having musculoskeletal injuries, why not give them exoskeletons to use to be able to reduce these risks? As health and safety professionals, we need to upskill our knowledge. Change is difficult and learning is difficult, but we do not have a choice. We need to understand at least at the basic level, how these new changes are going to affect us, how this new technology works, understand about climate change, because it's only with this understanding that we can do a good risk assessment and protect people's health and safety. We need to adapt our risk management to the changing way in which work is being done. How do we, for example, make sure that even though a worker is working remotely, they're doing so in a healthy and safe manner? How do we provide training to them? Can we, for example, do a display screen equipment risk assessment via a video call? These are things that we need to think about. And very importantly, knowledge sharing. We need to learn from others. So, for example, West Africa can learn from the UK, which is more advanced in technology. This is so that we don't have to repeat the same mistakes to get the same lessons. We can learn lessons from mistakes that have gone before us. And even the UK can learn from others who are more technologically advanced, maybe even Japan, for example. So those are my points. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. Over to Matt for your thoughts.
Okay, yeah, great stuff, David. Really thought-provoking again. How can the health and safety profession in both regions respond to? I think we need to respond by constantly upskilling and learning as HC professionals, and to ensure a healthy and safety future for workers. including things but not limited to digital skills, soft skills, ethical decision making, and lifelong learning. We need to keep up with the pace. Okay, I think we need to do a lot of work in getting people into safety at a young age. A lot of people, including myself, fell into safety by accident. No pun intended, of course. We need to drive forward sustainability, most importantly, social sustainability as well, whilst enhancing working conditions and well-being across the world. We need to ensure that regulations and standards are constantly evolving, but evolving for the better. And I think we need to be aware of rising new risks and challenges and develop appropriate responses to them. Just as David said, I think AI can be a massive benefit to us going forward. And there's no point fighting it. We need to adapt and bring it into the world, because it's certainly coming, and probably coming at a very, very fast pace. Okay, I think it'll be an absolutely great thing long term, but I think in the short to medium term, we probably need to be a little bit careful, because I've seen a few risk assessments that have been done by AI, and they're probably a little bit sketchy at the moment. But obviously that's really in the interim, with, I think at the minute, really in the very, very early stages, what AI can potentially do and will do to change not just the safety profession, but I think the world as well. Okay, and I think it's going to be a really exciting time. So we need to embrace that and do well. Okay, I think we need to see the opportunity to evolve, the opportunity of change to evolve and not to be a threat massively. I think that's really key. I keep mentioning that, but it's really key, I think. And I certainly think it'll improve our lives as HSE professionals. It'll make things easier for us in some sections, and it will certainly give us another tool to play with. And the more we've got, the better I think we'll be as professionals and the safety industry in general. Okay, I think the most important thing we need to do regarding this is promote awareness, both locally and globally, around safety, workers' rights, etc. And I know that IOSH are doing a fantastic job of doing this, not just at local level, but at government level. And I know we're lobbying governments around the world, including the UK government, to make sure we're adapting and changing and giving workers the safe future that they need going forward. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Over to Temi Tope.
Yes, thank you. David actually mentioned some stuff when it comes to upskilling. That's also something that we also have to take a closer look to. In this part of the world, that is in the Africa region. We professionals in the Africa regions, we focus more on technical competency, technical certifications. We have to look outside the box. Now, we should be talking about soft skills, certification trainings that could actually enhance your soft skills. But but over there, we invest more in technical skills. That is something that we as OHS professionals, we have to do. And also we have to put ourselves in a position of influence. We have to put ourselves in the position of influence. Matt also mentioned that earlier. Now, as OHS professionals, I'm not saying that we should go into politics, but it is something that we have to do. We have to be involved. We have to be part of the decision makers. That's the way we could actually drive our policies. These are the way that we could actually drive the laws. Because if we are not involved, we will have people speaking on our behalf while we should be speaking ourselves. So these are things that we have to do. And definitely we also have to be strategy. That is something we also have to. We have to be strategy. OHS professionals, we don't see ourselves as being strategists, but we have to. This is something that we have to do in order to get that change. In order for us to actually respond to that change effectively and efficiently. We do not only have to respond to this change, but we have to respond to it efficiently and effectively. So, with this, we could actually respond well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Some real passion being showed on the subject already, and we're not halfway through this yet. So let's talk about gig work. Gig work is mentioned in the report as well. So what if gig work overtakes secure employment as the most common source of core earnings? Real good discussion, this one. So we'll go over to Kemi for this one.
Okay, thank you, Carl. So like David already mentioned, he said gig work refers to short-term, flexible, freelance. And examples of gig workers could be Uber drivers, even us as HSE practitioners. Some of us, despite the fact that we do 9 to 5, we still do consulting with other organizations, try to prepare their HSE report or something. So we still try to do gig work. And the gig work economy offers benefits like flexibility and entrepreneurship opportunity, but also it raises concern about workers' rights. What's the job security? What's their social safety nets? So when you think about all these, then you ask yourself that is gig work, does it really make sense to do gig work? Because all the benefits that you would have gotten as a full-time work, you can't get those benefits, which I'll just call on Julius now so that Julius talks about the implications that involves gig working. Thank you.
Okay, let's go over to Julius.
Thank you very much, Carl. Thank you, Kemi. Yeah, just like you've rightly mentioned, gig working allows those seemingly good benefits with a lot of negatives laced all over them. Negatives in the sense that, for instance, health insurance, your taxation runnings, and the rest will be handled by that individual who is like one office in all. He operates everything like an office on his own and has to keep carrying the load of it. So if gig working overtakes secure employment, there will be a lot of people acting as single offices on their own, in which case their health and safety is compromised. You'll notice that some of the workers' benefits would work in secure employment around West Africa. Some of the benefits is they get a health insurance, and not only them, their family also get that insurance. This is paid out of pocket for those guys who have to do gig employment. And when this happens, it means then that their health and safety and that of the family, by extension, is compromised. And then we are priding ourselves that we're making little impacts in worker health. That impact will crash should gig work become predominant over what we recently called secure working. So you find people like me gradually talking against gig work. So, and the biggest way I talk about it is by taking part in what is called secure employment. That's working in an organization. And then as an OSH professional, I get better fulfillment by seeing that, okay, I work in a place with about 300 people, 400 people, and I get to contribute to keeping them safe and healthy every day. That fulfillment is one of the things that keeps me going day by day. Gig working may not give me that one-on-one interaction with them because I come in maybe as a consultant, go back to another place. I'm more like a money maker rather than an impact maker. So if gig working overtakes secure employment, people like me will lose that fulfillment we derive. And we are many. I've seen a lot of people who are like that. So yeah, I feel that we shouldn't get to such a time. May we never get to such a time. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just to add to what Julius has said, so for me to adapt to this as professionals, we need to shift towards advocating for new legal framework, improving access to healthcare and benefits, and also leveraging technology. We've heard from all the people that have spoken. We keep talking about technology. Technology has come to play. Do you understand? The world of work is changing, and we need to shift towards that. Thank you. Over to you, Carl.
Okay, yeah, really interesting. Just over to Richard for your thoughts.
Yeah, I agree with my fellow panelists who commented on this. However, I think there's something we need to be really critically clear on here. Gig work, short-term contract work, from my perspective, is different. I'm a gig worker, and if you like sport, you like live music, you like live events, you like festivals, enforcing that an event producer employs the people that they need to deliver that event will result in one thing and one thing only. That will be the end of the industry. So I think we need to be really, really clear on what gig work is and what short-term contract work is. I do gig work, but when I'm working, I mean, I'm currently working for Apple TV. They consider me as a gig work, but I'm covered by their insurance. And interestingly, and everybody's different, I get great fulfillment from doing multiple events in a single year. That's my motivation, meeting new people, getting to interact with those people, learn the challenges. I feel it makes me a better health and safety professional because I'm reaching into multiple different companies in multiple different regions. But we have to be clear, those people who are working for perhaps some of the ride-hailing companies or the food delivery companies, the way that they're treated does need to be reviewed, but we need to be critical. We simply cannot say that we must enforce people be employed, because it would damage some parts of our industry so badly. And I've done quite a few events in West Africa. I did an event in Ghana last year. I accept the challenge, but equally, I hope that you all can see that there has to be a balance. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Certainly an interesting point of view from an events lens. Okay, so are we living through a time of rapid evolution, or could it be described as a complete transformation? Julius?
Yeah, thank you very much, Carl, once again. In Nigeria, many things are happening within our health and safety space, within the regulatory space for health and safety. We are seeing quite a number of changes. We had issues with our chartered professional body. That's been resolved. And that's coming with a regulatory board for health and safety that is being set up by the House of Representatives Committee on Safety Standards and Regulation. But these are changes, in my opinion. They are evolution, they are rapid evolution. They are not outright transformation. They are processes that we're gradually pulling through within the health and safety space. There are also other challenges which are occasioned by changes in our economic and social life. And these changes are having indirect impact in people's health and safety, even mental issues when they arrive at work. And for these other ones, I'd like to hand over to Kemi to, add her voice to them.
All right. Thank you so much, Julius. Okay, just like what Julius said, Nigeria is actually undergoing rapid revolution. But the truth is, there have been some transformations so far when it comes to technology and innovation. So the rise of Nigeria's tech ecosystem could be described as transformation for me, because companies like Flutterwave and the Paystack, they are really positioning themselves in Nigeria as leader in fintech innovations on the African continent. And for us in Africa, technology has come to play. Now everyone talks about AI. You open your phone, everything AI, and you just be wondering. And also some transformation that has also happened is renewable energy. While the energy sector is still they're still trying to improve, but there have been some changes, because now you can use your solar, you can get solars in place of electricity to just save energy and all that. So for us in Africa, we are gradually transforming. We are not there yet, but there are still some challenges, just like what Julius said. For example, infrastructure. Nigeria still faces significant challenges with infrastructure development, such as inadequate roads, unreliable electricity, and that's why people go for solars now. And we even have inequality and also security issues. So it just for people like in the northern part of Nigeria, they face a lot of security threats which affect us as a country. So those are the challenges. And again, of course, we moved from just the men leading, but now it's improving, because now you have women trying to take leadership opportunities. And Nigeria is living through a period of rapid revolution, which characterized by significant advances in technology, culture, and certain economic sectors. So thank you, Carl. Over to you.
Thank you, Kemi. Thank you very much. The report talks about global warming, and I think we'll go to Matt Hall for this question to start with. Matt, what if extreme global warming leads to significant increases in workers' occupational risks and vulnerability?
Okay, yeah, cheers, Carl. To be honest, I think we're seeing it already. around the world with climate disaster, things such as floods, heat waves, droughts, cyclones. A UN research document I read recently estimated that about 50% of the world population is being at risk of climate disaster, which is an absolutely staggering figure, I think. To help improve on this, to make things better, we as safety, not just as safety professionals, but as human beings again, need to address inequality and invest in resilience. As I said earlier, I've done a fair bit of travelling, visited a few countries across Earth, and I think the inequality we see is staggering. And as Rick mentioned earlier, it makes me angry as well at times. Have I done enough personally myself? Probably not. Do I try harder these days? Absolutely. Have I still got a long way to go? Yes. Have we as safety professionals and as a society in general? Yes. But are we moving in the right direction? I think yes as well. There's a lot of things going off, such as the Activate 2028 report, and obviously the Harrod report's highlighted inequalities as well, which is absolutely great. Not nice to see, but it's good to see it's being noticed. We can impact things like this day-to-day lives without even knowing it. We can go from the small things, such as using a reusable cup when we go to Starbucks. Other coffee shops are available, I'll add. Right through to the car we drive about in. Okay, change starts from within. I believe society on the whole is rapidly evolving, and we need to escalate change before it really is too late. Okay, it's a fantastic world we live in, but we need to be careful with everything that's going off, and I really believe that. That said, I think we're definitely on the right path. IOSH are doing some fantastic things, and again, I think AI can play a massive role in improving this in the future going forwards by eliminating waste and saving millions, if not billions of pounds, dollars, whichever currency we look at, which can then be diverted to help our end goal, which is a more sustainable world and to help reduce global warming.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Over to David for your thoughts.
All right, thank you. So the first thing I want to see is it's turned from a what if to a sure thing. Global warming is affecting people's health and safety. I saw a study done that showed that approximated 100,000 people die from health-related injuries every year. That is staggering. That is upsetting. That is profound. So we need to accept that climate change has come, global warming has come, and workers are exposed, mostly outdoor workers, but also indoor workers as well. So as health and safety professionals, we need to adapt to it. For example, the principle of acclimatization. If a worker is new to a hot environment or has been away from the hot environment for 4 or more days, they should not just start work immediately at full pace. They need to be introduced into the work gradually over 7 to 14 days. This allows their body to adjust to the heat, start to sweat more, bring more blood to the surface of their skin so that they can lose the heat. We need to think about things like PPE. Do we change the materials of PPE to make them more breathable, to make them lighter, to make them less tightly fitting, where it applies, of course? We need to provide things such as shades for workers to go every 15 to 20 minutes to have a cup of water, just to keep hydrated to deal with these health-related injuries. We need to plan for health-related emergencies like heat stroke, heat exhaustion. We need to have planned for them, run drills, have the infrastructure ready, have trained people available. But even beyond heat, global warming is doing other things. So for example, if you work with dust, your chances of inhaling this dust, being harmed from the dust, is increased because the weather is hotter, the weather is drier. We need to think about increasing our supervision of workers, because workers are now currently more likely to take off their PPE because it's just so hot. We need to think about vector-borne diseases. You may think that a certain insect is not in your region. Look again, because climate change is changing these things. Things are going haywire. We need to protect workers who can potentially be exposed to these vectors. And floods. As Rick said, rainfall can occur unpredictably in heavy amounts anywhere. How do we reinforce our workplaces against flood? How do we deal with the waterborne diseases that are flushed out by the flood from our gutters, from our sewage system to our doorsteps? We need to adapt.
Thank you, David. Plenty to think about there. Over to Richard, your thoughts?
Yeah, Carl, thank you. David brought up some really valuable points. Two really quick ones from me. I've been in the events industry for more than 25 years. 20 years ago, I honestly can't remember ever stopping an event, putting in a crisis management plan, evacuating people from event spaces. I've done it 3 times this year. So as David said, climate change is here, but it's unavoidable. And just a personal point, the Arab report talks a lot about diseases, injury from heat, vector-borne diseases. I didn't actually see anything in there about some of the older concerns that we still shouldn't forget. Increase in melanoma rates. The melanoma rates in the UK are embarrassingly bad, with the 3rd worst in the world. Nigeria, Ethiopia also have quite high rates of melanoma. Dr. David, you'll be pleased to know that Ghana's rates of melanoma are very low. But what I'm basically saying, while we're focusing on AI, the adaptation of advanced technology, understanding what increased temperature is doing to the workforce and the potential risk, we also need to remember that some of those risks that we've managed for years can't be forgotten about. Melanoma is one of them. I'm married to a dermatologist, that's why I had to get that in.
Thank you, Richard. Last 2 questions for the panel. Just a reminder that there's plenty of opportunity to get your questions in now on chat. I can see the questions are mounting up. So if you have any questions for the panel, try and get them in now, please. So this one's over to Kemi. I know she's passionate about this subject. Kemi, could psychological injuries and mental health be regulated in the same way as physical injuries?
Okay, thanks, Carl. Okay, just like David mentioned earlier, that we focus more on the physical injury than the psychological injury, which that's true. The truth is the physical injury and the mental health can be regulated in similar ways. So one, let's talk about using the ALGAE. ALGAE is a framework using the mental first aid, which the A represents assess for risk of suicide or harm. So now what's the first step to do is to assess whether this person is in immediate danger or self-harm, suicide, or harmful to others. When you think about that, you move to L. The L represents listen, not judgmental. It's very important to offer a safe and supportive and non-judgmental space for the person to express their feeling and thoughts. And over time, most people don't actually listen when people try to. So it's very important to be an active listener, so that you'll be able to understand that person. So the J talks about you have to give reassurance and information. How do you give reassurance and information? You need to help by reducing anxiety and fear from people. Let the person know that they are not alone, that they need help, and help is available. However, it's important not to minimize their feelings or even offer false reassurance. The E represent encourage appropriate professional help. How do you do that? You have you can just call a doctor or a therapist, or even refer the person to a counselor that can help such person. This step involves guiding the person towards the appropriate resources, including mental health services, supporting groups, or even hotlines, depending on the location where you are. And the E in the ALGAE is encourage self-help and other support strategies. And how do you do that? This could include promoting activities to help manage stress. For example, exercise, you do exercise, you meditate, and what are your hobbies, and just go for it, and seek support from friends, family, or peer group. And why is ALGAE very important? It's important because of the immediate assistance. It provides a clear step-by-step approach for supporting someone in crisis until a professional help comes. Then it also helps to reduce stigma, because oftentimes a lot of people are faced with stigma which affects them. And another importance is to promote early intervention. And how do you promote early intervention? You do that by encouraging people. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, carry on. Yeah.
Okay, so you do that by encouraging someone to seek help early than to prevent the escalation of mental health. So there are a lot of risk, and of course, once you assess it, you'll be able to know what kind of risk is involved, what are the hazards involved, and be able to address that. Thank you. Over to you, Carl.
Okay, thank you very much, Kemi. So we're just down to the last question now. So we'll go to the East Midlands Chair, Matt Hall. So finally, how ready are we? How ready are we for the OSH? How is the OSH professional ready for these rapid changes and adaptation?
Yep, cheers, Carl. I believe we're certainly moving in the right direction. Is anyone ever 100% ready for rapid change? Probably not. We can never be fully certain what the future is going to hold, especially in today's current world, evolving, everything changing so quickly. A lot of the time we learn as we go along, and there's sometimes nothing wrong with that. But as the ARIT report states, we need to and can certainly put ourselves on the right footing by as mentioned earlier, by constantly upskilling and learning as HC professionals, being aware of new risks and challenges that we're likely to face or are facing in the present. And again, as the ARIT report states, there's a fundamental shift occurring regards traditional definitions of what the profession does and stands for. There's never been a truer statement, I don't believe, than that. It really hits home and it's absolutely spot on. Okay, I certainly think when we talk OSH, HSE, in particular, that we need to be putting a lot more focus on the E part, the environment part, as we've touched on earlier. Climate change and global warming is probably the biggest threat we've had as mankind, let alone a safety profession. That said, we're doing some great things. You know what I mean? Some of the IOSH strategy points towards that with the ARIT report and certainly Activate 2028. I know I keep mentioning that, but I'm a really passionate driver of that. I think it's a fantastic initiative and it's coming along really well. As I said, I'm a keen fan of that because I was affected by a workplace fatality when I was living abroad and in Southeast Asia, and seeing the damage that brought to one family who worked quite closely with us, and the fact that there's 7,500 deaths a day worldwide related to workplace exposure or injury somehow is absolutely unthinkable. Okay, and we need to do absolutely everything we can. Help drive that number down, which I think we are all on the panel, etc., really doing the best we can, as are numerous safety professionals worldwide. And I think just the main thing to close with is raising awareness and driving change is absolutely key here for us as HC professionals, which I know that everyone on the panel is trying to do, hence this cross-world meeting, 2 continents meeting, and I know that the vice presidential team and the presidential team are making absolute massive strides as well and putting some absolutely fantastic work in doing so. Okay, and I think that's it for me, Carl. Thank you. We'll get into the Q&As.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Real thank you for the panel as well. So it's time to go over to some Q&As in the chat. I think there's quite a few coming. I'll just hand over to Gabriel Bolatito to go through the Q&As. Over to you, Gabriel.
Okay, thank you, Carl, and good evening, everyone, once again. So I'll start right away. That was a question. The question goes to David, Dr. David Ako, is actually about how will we identify mental health issues in workplace? The person is saying that this is such a complex subject and usually set aside for medical experts. So, Dr. Ako, as a medical person, how do we handle mental health in the workplace?
Okay, thank you for the question. So, yes, you're absolutely right that a mental health professional usually should be involved in identifying mental health issues. However, practically speaking, we can't have mental health professionals in all our workplaces. It's just not practical. Our role as OSH professionals is to be able to identify the possibility of a mental health problem and then be able to approach the individual if they want to speak to us or if they need further help. So we are sort of a screening tool, and you don't need to be fully trained in mental health to be a screening tool. If, for example, you know the worker comes to work every day with a smile and says hello to everyone. But for the past week, the worker comes quietly, doesn't talk to anybody, getting late, is looking disheveled. It shows you that there's something going on. And then this is where we can intervene before it goes too far. So no one is asking us professionals to be mental health professionals, but we should serve as the screening tools for onward pushing to a mental health professional.
Okay, so in short, that if people like that, people can actually gain access to experts to get more insights. Yeah, thank you, sir. The next question from Chloe Aslam. I think the topic of climate change is an interesting one, especially within the health and safety, and it's an important one. How do you think health and safety guidelines should be updated to manage the growing risks from biological and environmental hazards caused by climate change? I will call Richard and Julius. So you have 1 minute each to speak on.
We start with Julius because I'm struggling with my Wi-Fi at the moment.
Okay, so Julius, go ahead.
All right, thank you very much, Gabriel. So, for instance, in Nigeria, we have seen that very recently, in fact, and ongoing, lots of issues are coming from flooding, from several other areas, throwing up diseases in different workplaces and communities. There are so many things to handle. And Dr. David said quite a number of things from the medical perspective. Generally speaking, and from government perspective, one strong thing that needs to be done is these things don't just happen. They have indicators. Before they happen, people should look at prevention. We should, even as OSH professionals, we should add our voices to prevention. Flood doesn't just happen. In fact, case in point, the current flood is caused by the release of water from a certain dam. Before that water is released, we know about it. There's a letter always sent. Plans should be made to relocate people living in floodplains so that these kind of things don't happen. I mean, these things are totally preventable. So when the information comes ahead of time, the information should go to the right quarters and the right action should be taken to prevent these things. Okay, prevention passed. When it now happens, we need to get involved in helping relocate as many people as we can, and then spreading awareness about disease pathogens and the need for people to leave those areas as quickly as they can, and then give assistance to victims in forms of relief materials and the rest of them as they relocate to temporary places and shelter where they will be until they can come back to those areas. But most importantly, prevention is key. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So prevention, I actually did better than looking for security. Dr. Richard, are you back now?
I'm here. Really quickly.
Okay.
Last week, I chaired a panel on integration of AI into the workplace, which is available on the IOSH website. And one thing that we talked about during the panel was AI predicting weather patterns, changes in weather patterns, and how data sets, accurate data sets, can be used not only for predicting weather, but we can predict how malarial carrying mosquitoes are spreading through the UK. So really simply, I'm saying, and again, I'm reiterating something that we've all said, let's not fight AI, let's understand it, and let's use it as a positive tool, because there are benefits if it's used appropriately.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Okay, so I move on to the next one from Sandra. Is it, are there mental health self-assessment tools which can help employees take stock of their work-life balance and self-help if needed? I'll call on Matt and Temitope. So 1 minute each, please.
Yes, I think we can certainly do things in the workplace to encourage a work-life balance. Things such as work events, get-togethers, social side of things, etc. Encouraging people to take the lunch hours, encouraging to take the holiday entitlement, ensuring that people aren't overworked, keeping an eye on them, supporting them, and most importantly, if people do come forward with concerns and issues, that we fully support them or divert them to the right avenues for them to be able to get supported.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay, yes. I mean, in addition to what Matt just said, I mean, we can also see from the chat area that David also mentioned it. I mean,
yeah, you mentioned it too. Yes, Pascal.
We definitely have several online tools that we can actually use in order to help us assess our individual mental health. I mean, it is something that we have to take personal. We don't have to wait for the organization to do the needful. That is something that is very key. We have to take it personal. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it really helps us to actually identify if we are actually, because some of us, we don't even know that we are exposed to mental health. We don't even know that we have mental health issue. We might actually be thinking that it's a normal illness, but it could actually be mental health. So we have to carry out an assessment, and definitely we can definitely use Pascal and several online tools to actually help us to identify, because identification is something that is key. We must first of all identify before we could actually provide any solution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm moving on to Bashiru Omar. So when talking about upskilling, what specific skills will be relevant to the HSC professional, say 5 years from now? So we'll get across from different fields. I'll call on Dr. Aku. I'll give us perspective, and also math. Then Kemi also preparing, so that we'll get from different angle. Upskilling. We're talking about upskilling. What specific skills will be relevant to the HSC professional in the next 5 years from now?
So it's a great question. So we need to recognize that there are some things that current and future technology does better than us. As has been said, Temitope mentioned this as well. We need to focus less on things that AI can do better than us and focus on the things that AI can do. So for example, there is something we call behavioral-based safety, where you observe the way workers work, encourage them when they do the right thing, and then point out when they do the wrong things, and then try and find out the root causes of them doing the wrong things. This requires empathy, because you need to approach it very, very carefully. You need to be kind. You need to gain their trust. AI cannot do this. There are things like developing a health and safety culture by developing leadership skills, by leading by example. These are things that AI cannot do. So the answer to the question is develop your soft skills, develop the things that AI cannot do, and that is where you'll be invaluable, you'll be irreplaceable. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Matthew.
Yep, I'd love to go into a really big, long speech with a different view, but I agree 100% with what David said, to be honest. I don't really think there's a deal I can add, because I think it's absolutely spot on and a really good summary.
Okay, Kemi, Matthew.
Okay, so as an HSC professional, part of the upskill, one is sustainability. Now everyone talks about ESG, so we all need to be more familiar with ESG, the reporting standard, and also the sustainable supply chain management. And also for sustainability operations, we need to have knowledge of the green energy, the waste management, and the resource conservation techniques. And of course, not even leaving the EIA, that's the environmental impact assessment that we all know. So what are the carbon footprints and the reduction strategies in the industry that you work in? So I think these are part of this. And then we need to even advance more on risk assessment and mitigations in the industry that we work in. For example, mastering the Fortray analysis and all the Volta analysis, the Monte Carlo simulation and the likes. So that's what I think we should do. Thank you. Over to you, Gabriel.
Okay, thank you. So we are almost getting to the last 2 questions. Okay, so this question is from Temitope. When it comes to AI, this is making some OHS professionals to be lazy, as reports are now being prepared with AI. That is, some use ChatGPT and some other AI tools. Even responding to emails, what can be done to address this trend? So I will call on Julius and Richard, please.
Okay, so let me just go first so that Richard can seal it. Okay, I think it's been said here already that we should do the things that we need to do to upskill and allow the ones that AI must do to AI. We can't rule out AI from our lives. It's built into us as it stands now. We really must learn and know how to use AI so that we don't become lazy while using AI. We should begin to do the things that we must do. Kemi rightly said it. We should begin to learn sustainability, learn sustainability reporting. In addition to that, there's business continuity planning, which seals up your job very well in emergency preparedness and management. It makes you more valuable to your organization. There are leadership skills. OHS professionals should seek to go into positions of leadership within the organization, because within Africa, we find out that some organizations' leadership do not give you the leverage to implement what good things you'd like to implement. So if we get into leadership spaces as OHS professionals, that will help us a lot to do all of these things. So leave AI to do the things it can do. It's very good to use it for preparing your reports, but let it not become the reason for laziness. Instead of becoming lazy, get into these other skills and advance your course at it. That's what I think. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Richard?
Really quickly, how can I follow on? That's a fantastic answer. Again, another panel I sat on recently, the ethics of AI, this completely blew my mind. For me, the premise of AI, the actual AI being ethical, we have to remember it's an algorithm. It's built on data sets. It is not sentient. So actually, the question's interesting, but I think you spend so much time trying to create a risk assessment or a safety plan or a method statement using AI, whichever platform you use. I think for me, the documents I've read that have been produced by AI, they may be competent, but it's clear to me that they're written by AI. So AI is not sentient. It's not a human.
Okay, thank you. So the last question, gig work provide more income to secure work as often experienced. So this three has come to stay. Okay, yeah, as a result, this also has come to stay, and professionals, we should look at evaluating the result. Since Julius does not really believe in gig work, so I push this to Dr. Akfu, and Matt can also speak on it. Okay, so maybe we can round up with Kemi on it. Okay, Dr. Akfu.
Okay, so sorry, please clarify the question. What is it about
gig work? So the person is saying that the gig work, that is the GIG work, provide more income compared to other person is doing a secure employment and is as often experienced. So this has actually come to say. So what is that as professional? How should we look to evaluate the risk that's come along with it? Okay, because there are actually risk. Either you have a secure work, you are still doing the gig, or you're actually doing the gig as your regular work. So what are the risks that actually we should be looking towards as professional that we should evaluate?
Okay, thank you. So gig work is here and is here to stay. I mean, just like everything in the world, it's for some people, it's not for some people. Some people prefer secure employment, some people prefer gig work, some people prefer a mixture of the two. As health and safety professionals, our job is not to fight the onset of gig work or the advancement of gig work, but to protect people as they do the gig work. So ensuring things like, even though they're doing the gig work, a risk assessment is done of their work, that control measures are created to suit that work they're doing. If you take, for example, somebody who does delivery work via a platform and they ride from A to Z on a motorbike or in a car, there are things like the planning of the routes that can be done to avoid high traffic areas. There are things like watching the weather to make sure that you don't travel in bad weather and risk injuring yourself. There are things like ensuring that you are protected if you're going to a place that is dangerous, that you don't go alone to a place where you can risk yourself. So our job is to risk assess their particular circumstances and come up with controls so that even as they do this chosen line of work, which is everybody's right to work the way they want to work, that they are kept healthy and safe. Thank you.
Okay, Kemi. Okay, while you're planning that, Aguilos actually said that he does believe in gig work and that the gig work has come to stay. So, however, I do not hope that it's overtake the skill work. Okay, thank you, Aguilos. So, Kemi,
Okay, thank you, Gabriel. So the key risk associated with gig work, we have to think about one is lack of regulatory protection, because as a gig worker, you're often being classified as an independent contractor, which means that they may not even cover you in their safety regulations and all in the country that you find yourself. And you have limited access to safety equipment. For example, you're not a full-time employee, so they're not going to give you the necessary PPE for the job. They take you as a contractor, which they'll tell you, okay, as you're coming to do this job, you need to come with your own PPE and all. Then, of course, there is the mental health risk. That's when the uncertainty and the isolation often associated with gig work can lead to stress and anxiety and burnout, because you tend to do a lot of things at the same time. You're working a full-time job, you have like other jobs out there or other gig works that you need to do, which sometimes is not just one, it can be more than one, just to meet up to your financial distance. And again, you have to also think about the legal and compliance risk, where you have unclear liability for workplace accident. For example, if something now happens to you in your in the place in the organization where you find yourself doing that gig work, are there workers' compensation? Are there benefits and all? Which of course you agree with me that they are not. So these are the things that you have to think about. Also, part of the risk could be economics and also physical health. Such as, for example, a delivery man or a warehouse gig worker, he face a risk. For example, the RSI due to repetitive motions and improper ergonomics and all. So what insurance will cover him? Of course, there are no insurance and all. But now the thing is, how do we now, what are the steps needed to mitigate and manage this risk? One, you have to extend regulatory coverage that covers the gig workers and all. And we need to constantly train those gig workers in terms of risk assessment and all. And again, they need to also collaborate with platforms. For example, work closely with the gig economy platform to implement safety measures. What are the necessary safety measures depending on the gig work that you are doing in the organization? And of course, innovative insurance models should also come in. Are they flexible insurance solutions that they could offer gig workers to cover them in terms of injuries and accidents and a health-related incident in the place of work? Are there also community and support network? For example, how do you establish the virtual and physical communities where gig workers can even access peer support, share safety tips and all, raise awareness about common risk and all? So these are just the few mitigations that we can. Of course, technology has even come to play, which how do you collate your data-driven in terms of safety protocols and all? So when we think of all that, then we'll now ask ourselves, with this gig work, I am doing this gig work, are you actually evaluating the risk involved? Is it a high risk when it comes to the job that you're doing, or is it a low risk, or is it a medium risk? Thank you, Gabriel.
okay, thanks. Our time is actually fast spent, so I will hand over straight to Temitope. Temitope, thank you. Thank you, all the panelists. Thanks for your insights. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you all once again. We sincerely appreciate everyone that is definitely present at this session today. Especially, our great thanks goes to the IOSH presidential team that we have present here. We have Ricky. Thank you, Ricky, and we also have Dave. Our own Dave, we thank you. Definitely, we sincerely appreciate your presence and definitely your impact, your knowledge that you've actually imparted on each and every one of us. And and also I will also be thanking our great panel members, starting from Kemi, my vice chair, that's a very wonderful one. Dr. Julius, we sincerely appreciate you. And definitely my co-chair, Matt. Matt is definitely the initiator of this meeting. Matt, I say thank you. And definitely we will also thank our facilitators, starting from Kai. Thank you, Kai. And definitely we also thank our background. We also have some back support. That is Liz and Catherine. Thank you for your support at all times. And definitely we will be thanking all the attendees from the two branches, and definitely the other branches, and definitely also the non-IOSH members. We thank you for attending this session. And definitely we will definitely be looking towards repeating this session. It's not going to end there. We will now be talking more about collaboration, because that is what we should be doing, not competition. So definitely, we'll be doing more of this from both branches. And then, definitely when we invite you or probably send a link, we definitely appreciate everyone to join. And definitely we know that, we believe that you have gained one or two things. And definitely, please do not forget to complete your CPD. It is very, very important. On this particular session, a lot of, this AROP, a link has been dropped there. So please go and download this AROP report. It's something that is very, very important. The link has been dropped. So please go and download that. And obviously, immediately this meeting closes, there will be a survey that will pop up. Please, there is room for continuous improvement. We want to improve. So please let us kindly complete that survey objectively. It is very, very important. So we could actually have your feedback, and we could actually look at ways that we can improve. And definitely look out for several upcoming events from both branches and from other IOSH branches. We are having one very, very soon. That's on September 25th. The link has also been dropped. So please kindly register and join, because definitely we all want to volunteer for IOSH. So please kindly register and join, and we could actually expand our knowledge. Thank you all for attending this session. I will just call on Catherine and Liz to actually give us a closing, thank you. We want to hear you, please. Thank you.
Just a big thank you to all the volunteers and panelists who've been involved behind the scenes in this event. And thank you for coming along. It's great to see two continents together as well, looking at what's the same and what's different. Thank you. Catherine, I don't know.
No, nothing to add. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.